Hans Holbein the Younger was an artist from the 16th century. His father and his older brother were also artists at this time. And Hans Holbein the Younger, long story short, he ended up in England, went back home, and then went back to England again. That second time he was in England was in the mid-1530s, and he became the court artist for Henry VIII. That's King Henry VIII, the one that's famous for having 6 wives. And while he was there, we believe that historians believe that Hans Holbein had painted at least 150 portraits while he was there in King Henry VIII's court. We don't have all of these portraits, but some of them have been lost to time, either from fire or war. With this Blackwork embroidery, which is known as Holbein stitch or double running stitch, it's known as Holbein stitch, I think, just because Hans Holbein the Younger, I know of at least 25 different either paintings or at least sketches that he did that had this embroidery in it, and his detail work is so phenomenal that I can look at it, well, you can look at it too. Anyone can look at it and be able to look at what the embroidery pattern was and be able to recreate it. Other artists at this time did paint this embroidery, but not as much, where like one artist may have painted one, another artist may have painted 2 portraits within it. And he did at least 25 that I've been able to find so far that have this embroidery in it. And so that's also why it's known as Holbein stitch. If you study King Henry VIII and the 6 wives during Catherine of Aragon, his first wife during her reign, it was also known as Spanish stitch. It was only after he then divorced Catherine of Aragon and then married Anne Boleyn that then the court decided to change it from Spanish stitch and then started to refer to it as blackwork. But when you look at a lot of Holbein's paintings, you are able to look at the painting, see what the embroidery pattern was, and then draft it and then recreate it. Personally, I like to use Excel, doing an Excel spreadsheet and then creating the pattern from that, and that's what I'm going to show you today. However, for the class I'm going to be teaching, I'm probably just going to have graph paper available since I don't know how many people will be in the classroom and it might be difficult for all of us to gather around a computer. But I'm going to show you an example of when you look at the pattern, you can then draft the pattern yourself to know exactly where all the stitches go. And then once you have that pattern, how to apply it to your own costuming. And my example is I have this partlet. This is a partlet that I had made years ago. And if you look right here, this right here is found in Hans Holbein's painting of, I believe it's called A Noble Boy with a Marmoset. Some historians believe that this portrait is of Edward VI, others, and that's the legitimate son of King Henry VIII, while other historians believe it may have been Henry Fitzroy, the illegitimate son of Henry VIII. Either way, the portrait was painted by Hans Holbein the Younger, and you can zoom in and see that ocean wave pattern, and then you can recreate this pattern. I wanted to show you also how to look at a portrait and then be able to recreate that pattern from a Hans Holbein painting. And then you can then take that pattern. A lot of his portraits have the blackwork embroidery either on the collar or on the cuffs. But then you can then take that pattern and then be able to embroider your own costuming as well. The only thing I would recommend is to do the embroidery first and then attach it to your costuming. To me, especially depending on if you are going to be either gathering it or pleating it. I like to pleat, but that's personal preference. But I find it's a lot easier when it's flat and firm on a frame to then do the embroidery and then cut it out and then either hem it or whatever you're going to do to then attach it to your cuffs or to your collar. So that's my personal preference. But here we go. So to get set up, I first like to have the portrait on the left side. This is Hans Holbein the Younger's portrait of the noble boy with a marmoset, and you can see the blackwork embroidery right along here on the collar. And then on the right, I like to have an Excel spreadsheet. And for the Excel spreadsheet, if I pull it out here underneath the font on the left-hand side, you will see this drop-down box to draw a border, and I like to go down to draw border, and then from here that's where you'll see a little pencil show up, and then I can start creating what I want. So if I want to, you just have to hold down the left key on the mouse, and then you can start. For the diagonals, you have to hold down the mouse to start the diagonal, go down to the other corner, and then release. If you're doing a straight line, you can do it by holding down the mouse and then going out as far as you want, and then lift up, and then you have a solid line. But for diagonal lines, you have to do each individual diagonal line. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more of my videos, please follow the links on the side of the page. Remember to select thumbs up that you like the video, It helps with the algorithm. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And please click subscribe and ring that bell to be updated when new videos come out.